Have you ever felt lonely? Not because there is no one around you, but despite the people around you. Chats always open, notifications that never stop coming, colleagues, friends, followers, contacts. And yet, at the end of the day, that subtle but persistent feeling of emptiness remains, as if everything had been functional. Useful conversations, necessary interactions, relationships that serve a purpose but don't truly nourish you. If you recognize yourself even a little in this feeling, stay until the end of this video, because what we will talk about today is not just an individual problem, but one of the great paradoxes of our time. Why in an infinitely connected world do we feel more alone than ever? And we might tell ourselves it's just a feeling, that it will pass, that it's just a bad day. But what if it isn't? What if that feeling is a symptom of something much deeper? Loneliness is not just a subjective perception. It's not simply feeling down or going through a rough phase. Over the past decades, sociological studies have shown a disturbing trend. The number of close friends people report having has dropped dramatically. More and more individuals say they don't have even one person with whom they can share deep thoughts, fears, or moments of vulnerability. And this applies to all ages, young people, adults, the elderly. In some of the world's oldest populations, studies show that around 27% of adults over 80 experience severe loneliness, while more than 30% live with moderate loneliness. And these numbers all include those who admit feeling lonely. They don't account for those who struggle to recognize it, or those who suppress it deep inside. At the same time, we are witnessing an increase in depression, a rise in anxiety disorders, a widespread sense of emotional disconnection. All of this is happening despite advances in technology, medicine, and communication. We are living in a society where individualism seems to leave little room for community and relationships, pushing us to live increasingly alone. In a recent survey in the United States, more than half of adults reported feeling emotionally disconnected or isolated, not occasionally, but regularly. These are not insignificant numbers. They represent tens of millions of people experiencing a meaningful degree of loneliness. They are people we meet every day, colleagues, friends, neighbors, and very often they are us. So the question becomes unavoidable. How is it possible that the more tools we have to connect, the more isolated we feel? Human beings were not born to be alone. From an evolutionary perspective, our true competitive advantage is not individual intelligence, but our ability to build communities, cooperate, share resources, develop empathy. We thrived as a species not because we were the strongest, but because we were together. Our ability to care for one another allowed us to face dangers, famines, predators, and hostile environments. As historians and philosopher Yuval Noah Harari writes, millions of years of evolution have shaped us to live and think as a member of a community. In just 2 centuries, we have become alienated individuals. These words remind us of something essential. We are not designed for isolation, but for exchange, intimacy, and empathy. Our bodies, our brains, our emotions are still calibrated for a world that quite simply no longer exists. Let's be clear, individualism is not the enemy. It's a fundamental part of our evolution. It allowed us to develop creativity, express new ideas, challenge authority, and innovate. Thanks to individualism, we have freedom of choice, autonomy, and identity. The problem arises when one dimension overwhelms all others. Over the last centuries, the balance between being individuals, being a community, has been broken. Individualism is no longer just a component of society, it has become a dominant ideology. We have been taught that we must make it on our own. Relying on others is a weakness. Asking for help is a failure. And slowly, we have internalized the idea that we are enough by ourselves. But that idea goes against our deepest nature. Modern economic systems have brought progress and prosperity, there's no doubt about that. But they have also radically transformed the way we relate to one another. More and more often, relationships became functional. Interactions have a purpose. Human value is replaced by productive value. We see this clearly at work. Online meetings instead of real encounters. Colleagues in the same room communicating through chat. Cameras off, microphones muted. We no longer see faces. We no longer hear poses. We no longer perceive emotions. And little by little, we became unaccustomed to the presence of others. Social networks were born with an extraordinary promise to bring people close together. And to some extent, they do. We can stay in touch, share moments, tell stories. But there is a side effect that is still talked about too little. Messaging, scrolling through photos, liking posts. All of this simulates a relationship, but it doesn't replace one. Our brain interprets digital connection as real contact, but our emotional system is not nourished. Here lies the paradox. We are digitally connected like never before in history, yet emotionally disconnected like perhaps never before. And this is not just an impression. As sociologist Zygmunt Bauman wrote, in liquid modernity, relationships become fragile because we have been trained to keep them light, easily breakable, and free of deep commitment. We did not evolve for screen-mediated relationships, asynchronous communication, interactions without eye contact, smells, or micro-expressions. We may have thousands of friends online, but real ones often don't even feel one end. And this dissonance creates frustration, confusion, and emptiness. So the question changed once again. If we are surrounded by people, if we are constantly connected, why is still not enough? The problem is that biological evolution is slow. For hundreds of thousands of years, human living conditions remain relatively stable. In the last 2 or 3 centuries, however, everything has changed dramatically, and we simply haven't had time to adapt. This shows up as difficult maintaining stable relationships, inability to manage conflict, fear of confrontation, emotional withdrawal. So we isolate ourselves. We retreat inward. We convince ourselves that we don't need anyone, but in the long run, this strategy harms us. According to many psychologists, loneliness will be one of the main risk factors for mental health in the coming decades. Depression is already among the leading causes of disability worldwide and is considered a future cause of indirect mortality. Not because loneliness kills directly, but because it slowly erodes our sense of meaning, our motivation, our will, to live. One study estimated that up to 18% of depression cases could be directly attributed to loneliness. Loneliness doesn't just affect mood, it affects physical and mental health at a deep level. It has been associated with depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease. And the most alarming fact is that this process is already underway. The good news is that understanding what's happening to us is already an act of resistance. If help doesn't come from the outside, we have to start with our daily actions. Small gestures, choices that seem insignificant. Next time you talk to someone, truly listen, without judgment. Make eye contact, ask sincere questions. Whenever possible, choose real contact over digital. A walk together, a coffee break, a conversation without distractions. The solution is not deleting social media, it's not rejecting technology. What we need is to make space for presence again. Society does not move forward when everyone thinks only on themselves. It moves forward when we rediscover empathy, cooperation, care for one another. Not as isolated individuals in constant competition, but as an imperfect, connected human community. Maybe we can't change the whole world, but we can change the way we relate to one another. And that's where everything begins again. If this video made you reflect, share it with someone who might need it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever felt lonely, even among others? Welcome to Luminous Thinking, where we explore the great questions of human existence. Here, we don't offer easy answers, but perspectives that invite deeper reflection. Thank you for making it to the end, and I'll see you in the next video.